Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Watters. I am a comic book editor and writer. I worked for about 12 years at Boom Studios. While I was there, I ran the Boombox imprint, which primarily generated projects for middle grade teens, young adults, um, and worked to diversify content for those groups in the graphic novel space and comic space. Um, and as a writer, I'm a co-creator and co-writer of the comic book series Lumberjanes, which is a GLAAD award-winning and Eisner award-winning New York Times-Bestselling comic book series that ran for about 75 issues. Um, and yeah, that's me. That's what I do. So Lumberjanes is a kind of a take on a scout camp story. So it's about 5 friends who go to Lumberjanes scout camp for the summer, and weird stuff starts to happen. Cryptids start appearing, three-eyed foxes and yetis and monsters of various sorts. Um, but as I always say, they're up for it. Um, they don't shrink back. They're not afraid. They are excited. They want to get to the bottom of the mystery of this forest. Um, and throughout the series, they have adventures in this forest that, uh, you know, change them and allow them to grow. Their friend Barney, who is in the scouting lads camp across the lake, they join the Lumberjanes um, and come out as non-binary. And we have a diverse array of scouts. Joe, who's kind of our leader, kind of like the Christy Thomas of the Babysitters Club. Scout is a trans girl. And we deal with everything from, crushes on other girls, ace characters, etc. In our book. And it is a ton of fun. I mean, I think that, every piece of art has a message, right? Like even things whose message is, uh, this is silly and ridiculous and there should be more reverence in the world. This was a book that was created by a group of queer creators who really truly wanted to create a book that reflected kind of um, this aspirational view of being uh, 12, 13, 14 years old, um, in a way that cartoons or books about folks that age did when we were kids, but for queer kids or weird kids, or um, just kids who are looking for their place. Um, and as a result, I think it found a really wide audience of all kids, right? Like if you make something, I think, hyper specific, it feels real and it feels true. And that's what kids and young people, young adults, are looking for. They're looking for work that validates their experience. And kids get crushes. Queer kids get crushes on other kids, and they, you know, um, I think that the language out there, right, exists for if you have a crush, if you're a girl, or you identify as a girl and you have a crush on someone who is is a boy, who identifies their gender as a boy. That God, there is a million pieces of media out there contextualizing that for you. Even if you don't understand those feelings, art helps you get there. Art helps you understand what those feelings are, and queer kids need to have stuff that contextualizes those feelings, art that contextualizes those feelings, that is accessible, that is fun, that is cool. A big part of it is an aspirational view. um, you don't want the after school special when you're a kid. You want something that feels like the person you want to be someday. um, and sexuality and gender uh, are big, huge things when you're a kid. You know, even I think parents who are like, oh, keep sexuality and gender far away from my kids, are watching Disney movies. They're calling their little girls tomboys, and saying that, oh, you have a guy friend, it's your boyfriend, that, like, it is a part of life. It is a part of exploring who you are. And um, I think if you, in a piece of art, if you deal with that in a way that feels, you know, uh, open-hearted, um, and again, kind of true and real, uh, you can provide a resource and a refuge for those kids. I think that in a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, uh, if you're a person who was assigned male at birth, and you are dissuaded from, say, feeling your feelings openly because it's not a manly thing to do, um, yeah, I think that's deeply, deeply harmful. I think that um, I I I think that gender should be fun. I think that gender should be um, kind of a beautiful tapestry, right? Like, um, the the ways that we as human beings, like, because gender is a complete construct, um, it it should be fun. It should be fun to play, to put on lipstick and heels when maybe you don't usually wear lipstick and heels, or put on you know a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, and play cowboy. Playing with gender um is it should be fun. And you should be able to kind of grapple at straws until you get to a shape of gender that feels um, right and beautiful to you. To not be able to do that is damaging. It feels like you're in a box, right? Like you're in a scary, confined little box um, that uh, that has no windows or doors. Um, and some people, I think, uh, it, it you go deep inside yourself, and you know they become trapped by the confines that gender, that they're kind of assigned to gender, and their very strict, rigid ideals of gender put them in. And that is, it makes me sad. It makes me sad that that they didn't have the opportunity and now they won't allow themselves the opportunity to allow kind of an openness when it comes to gender and sexuality. Um, some people find the idea of that openness threatening, um, as I'm sure everyone who's watching this video knows. You're out there designing products and programs um, with a mind toward more openness. And I encourage you all to think about gender and sexuality um, as an adult form of play, and that allowing kids to think, in age appropriate ways about what gender is, what sexuality is, um, it can only help. It can only give them a more uh, like a vaster idea of the world. It can only make their world bigger and more open and kinder, more empathetic. Um, to look at somebody and see their humanness, even if they don't fit inside these rigid ideas of what you think sexuality or gender should be. It's really powerful. It's really powerful. And I think that it's, again, I talked a lot in the first question about aspirational uh, ideas when you're doing this stuff for kids. Kids don't want to be lectured to. They don't want to be talked down to. They don't want to be kind of sold to. They don't want it to feel like they are being paternally lectured to about this stuff. They want to see somebody that they want to be. They want a model for the person that they could be. And and if you're doing that with varied gender and sexuality in mind, you're doing them a great service. Absolutely. I think art changes ideas. Art is one of the most powerful um, tools that we have to change minds in the world. I know it's kind of cheesy. I know it's a cheesy thing to say that art can change the world and change folks' ideas, but that art does that. Art touches you. It humanizes the other in your eyes. You put yourself through art. You put yourself into another person, right? You pick up a novel and you are the protagonist while you're moving through that novel. Their tragedy is your tragedy, and their delight is your delight. And when you create accessible art, when you create art too, and I want to talk a little bit about this. I think this is a good place to do it. You talk about visual, like gendered language and visualization. When you put in the hands of queer people the means to put this art out into the world, you broaden, you get that language and that community's visual cues out into the world. You expand the minds of the people watching, and because communities have their own visual code, they have their own language, and new things bloom from that. Beautiful kind of new societal language and visual language and innovation comes out of that. I think it is extremely powerful. It's one of the most powerful tools that we have. we talk about representation a lot, and representation is not like a throwaway character being gay, right? Like, because the viewer does not does not, the viewer, the reader, does not engage with that character. um you 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 want Buffy Summers to be gay, right? Like, um you want Supergirl to be gay, because that's who you identify with as the viewer, like you. And so yeah, you want, uh you want to do that. You want to put that out into the world, because it changes people's minds. It makes people's lives better, makes people's lives better, makes kids' lives better, which I think, that should be what we all aspire to.